I've been told it's teaching, and I mean, kind of would make sense. When I became a teacher, out of like 300 new teachers, I was, rookie teacher of the year. I came in a little late. I did corporate finance and stuff. I didn't like it. I got into teaching because my wife was a teacher and I loved it. And I was like, it was like an instant thing. You just do something that's just a natural fit. Teaching to me is really just like mapping out the clear steps. Like really paying attention to that person you're across from to see if they're getting it or not. It's not like a one-way thing, it's a loop. And just taking really complicated things and breaking them down into really, really simple, like easy to understand parts. So I do that for my students. Yeah, I do that in the books. I do it with my students. I did it when I was teaching algebra. I've done that pretty much my whole life. And like I said, I just never thought it would turn into much financially because teaching traditionally has been a little bit on the lower paying side. But now that I'm teaching, real estate investors, marketing, well, that's a whole different type of teaching. So it's all good.
Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen, to everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell, from the doctor saving lives at your local hospital, to the war veteran down the street who risked his life for our freedom, to the police officers and the firefighters who risked their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling. But there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored: the entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what, I can fix that. I can help people. I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world. Others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks on the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to The Hero Show. My name is Richard Matthews, and today I have live on the line Max Keller. Max, are you there?
I am. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So glad to have you here, Max. So for those of you who follow along with our travels, my wife and I are back down from Maine and Acadia. We are in Pennsylvania near Stroudsburg area on our way down to the East Coast for the summer because it was all closed on our way up in the springtime. And now it's open up again, so that should be pretty cool. Where are you calling in from, Max?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Is it warmed up there yet, or are you still getting all the rain?
Yeah,
no, it's raining a lot in the springtime.
Yeah, no, it's good to go. It's going to get real warm here pretty soon, but that's why we live in Texas. It's all good.
Yeah. Texas was on our whole travels around the country is one of my favorite places that we've ever been. So really, really liked the Conroe area north of Houston. Have you ever been down over there?
Oh yeah. I have family who lives down there. It's a great area. A lot of trees, and you're not too far from the coast. It's a big state. You got to drive, but there's a reason people are moving here. So.
Yeah. And I have to say, as a Californian, we went into Texas, and I always thought that the whole Texans are polite thing was just a stereotype. But I got there, and I'm pretty sure we were there for like 4 or 5 months. I got called sir more in those 4 or 5 months than I have in the entire rest of my life combined. So.
Yeah, I call my business partner sir. Like, it's just weird. Like, I don't know any other way to do that. So
just how Texans do it.
That is a thing down here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, really loved Texas. So what I want to do real quick is a quick introduction for you, for our audience who may not know you, and then we'll just dive into the conversation. So Max Keller is a best-selling author, real estate investor, entrepreneur, and national speaker. And he teaches on how to close more deals and raise more money with a book that positions you as a trusted expert. I mean, I know you invest all over the country, and also you teach agents and some other things. So what I want to just get into real quick is, what is your business like? Who do you serve, and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so kind of have a couple different ones. So we have our house buying and agent business. So the agent's under my license, and then my house buying business is Savior Home Buyers. So that's where we buy properties and help people locally with their real estate, challenges. So we do that, and then we also have a publishing business, and that's where we have some different books, some different licensed content. We use them in our business, and then we have people from California to Connecticut that license it and use it in their business, and just grow their business that way, and really kind of like lead with more value, more education. And then I have a coaching business with my partner, Mike Hambright. So for new people. So yeah, I stay pretty busy.
Yeah. So you are in the investor space and in the education space and in the real estate agency space.
That's right.
Wow. That's a lot of place to have spinning.
I have a great team, so they help me. I didn't start another one until I already had one, kind of going. And, what's interesting is like, especially the publishing one, like I never expected to do anything like that. It just sort of, sometimes we have challenges in our market. And if you're in real estate or even other businesses that are getting disrupted by technology, you're feeling those challenges sometimes. But what I found is like, I don't really like challenges I don't like it any more than anybody else, but some of the best things that I was able to create came out of those, because when your back is against the wall, you don't have a choice. And now I used to wish for less challenges. And now I'm like, bring them on, because it's tough for 12 months or 18 months, but then, it just really turns into something great.
Most people shy away from them. So being able to create new solutions in the midst of those challenges is how good businesses are created. So speaking of challenges, and you're in the real estate market, I know right now, because I got several clients and friends that are in the real estate space, like almost every market is experiencing this really, really odd thing where there is very, very limited supply, and the houses that come on the market are getting, more offers than they know what to do with, coming in immediately. Are you seeing that in Dallas as well, or is that just in like pockets?
Yeah, it's everywhere. For us, with the way that we market, it's a little bit different, like totally different. So we don't have as much exposure to it because we're not using the same traditional methods. But yeah, the root cause is really, it's interesting. Nobody's talking about it for some reason. People are talking about the symptoms. They're saying there's low days on market. It's a seller's market. There's no deals. Folks are talking about when the foreclosure wave is going to get here, when the next reset's going to be here. None of those are the real, renters aren't paying their rent. Like those aren't the real stories. The real story is that real estate is the single largest undisrupted market in the United States of America. $1.6 trillion a year of annual, transactional one-time real estate deals happen. $1.6 trillion. So what's happening is, these technology companies are coming in and they're using advantages and leverages. You've seen companies like Zillow, iBuyers, hedge funds, Wall Street. That's what's really going on. What's really happening is that Wall Street and everything below is taking a lot of interest since the last downturn. They've taken a lot of interest in single family homes, not just to fix them up, flip them, and make a profit that way, but also to hold them for cash flow real estate, because these companies are investing in firms that never even turn a profit. And and I know, and people who are in real estate know that single family homes can make good cash flow and good yields, astronomical yields compared to what Wall Street is used to. So they've gone all in. They've gotten a lot of help from the federal government. It's a big it's kind of the story's really gotten brushed under the rug. But folks who don't know what's happening in their full-time real estate, they're on a path to totally getting washed out, because Wall Street is all in. They're not slowing down, and so that's what's really going on. And we figured it out a few years before. I think it's going to be common knowledge, and we're doing some different things because of it. And that's why I was saying earlier, I'm glad I'm in Dallas, because it's just so competitive here that all of that stuff and that wave hit here a little bit sooner. And so we got the opportunity to try to figure out, just a different sandbox to play in.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about how you got into all these different businesses, right? We talk all the time about your origin story on this show. So every good comic book hero has an origin story. It's the thing that made them into the hero they are today, whether that is, were they born a hero, or were you bit by a radioactive spider that made you want to get into real estate and investing in education? Or did you start in a job and eventually become an entrepreneur later? Basically, want to know, where did you come from? How'd you get here?
Yeah. So I was, before I got into real estate, I was an algebra teacher and a coach, football, basketball, track at a Title I school. And I love my job. I had no plans on leaving. The problem was my kids, picture up here, I got 6 of them. They were starting to get older. I had 5 at the time, and I wanted to just make more income, but I really just want to have a little bigger nest egg. I got my master's degree in teaching, but unless I want to be a principal or something, it was pretty much, my pay was capped. And so I was looking for just kind of like side hustles in the summertime. My friend bought a rental. He works for the government, and he told me about it. And I was like, huh. And I just kind of kept researching it. And then I found like a local mentor. Started getting houses under contract while I was teaching math, and then, made about 16K on my first wholesale deal, which was about 4 months of teacher pay. And I was like, huh. And then I did another deal and then another one. And then I just said, okay, this is not
Way
just
more
a great,
effective.
way for, passive, but I can do a lot with active too. So I quit, and that was like 5 years ago this week. So, and I've never looked back.
So how long did it take to go from I think I'm interested in real estate to holding a $16,000 check in your hand?
I found out the idea July 4th weekend, 2015. And then I got that house under contract like December 2015. I really started because I didn't know what I was doing at first. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
does. Right? If you wait till you know everything, you'll be waiting a while. So December 1st was when I said go. And then within 3 weeks, I got 2 houses under contract. One I had too high because I just didn't know any better. But the other one I had just right, and I sold it to a cash buyer. That was like February. So probably about whatever that is, 8 months or
Like 8
so
months.
from
Yeah, that's pretty
idea.
cool to go from
Yeah.
idea to revenue that quickly.
Yeah.
And getting a deal under contract, 16,000 is that's almost like half the average income for the U.S. population.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just, when you know how to do really high income skills, it's like, I mean, it's unbelievable. You just get so much time freedom. So I just started doing that, built up my team, went full time. Obviously, you go full time, can't just, collect a couple rentals here and there, which was my original goal. So I raised up my goals, but probably around like 2017, fast forward a couple of years, although I was on track to do about 30 deals for the year, I had a small office, somebody helping me buy houses and admin, and all that. I just honestly felt like every house I was going to, I was interviewing for the deal, and there were just so many people in my market doing the same thing. And I was using every list, every cold calling thing, every text message, just pretty much every strategy I could get my hands on. And sometimes, it worked, but sometimes it didn't. And I just saw the ROI go down every year. So every month really on my marketing. So what I did was I was like, okay, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Like, instead of trying to take down all the houses in DFW, which is 8 million person metro area that's really spread out, I'm like, maybe I need to just focus on certain areas or certain deals. So what I did was I just went back and made a list of, like, I was probably up to maybe deal 50 by then. And I just made a list of all my existing deals that I had done. And then I was like, okay, what's like important to me? Because, this is my business at the end of the day. I need to be happy with what I'm doing. I was super happy with teaching. I just wasn't making as much money. And so for me, what was important, this isn't the list for everybody, but for me, I wanted to make good profit on a deal. Number one, because it takes about the same amount of time to do a bigger margin house than it would just a skinny one. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to work with people that weren't arguing with me about the values of their house. Like, they saw me as the expert and the trusted guide. So there wasn't resistance. And then number three, I just wanted to work with people that I had fun working with, that weren't needing me to bail them out of jail or just, yelling at me and just doing crazy off the wall stuff. And so there've been kind of two epiphanies with this. One was I found out that most of the people on my list didn't meet all three of the criteria. But what I did see was sort of the first eye-opening deal in my marketing, which was everybody who met that criteria was a senior citizen. And I was like, huh. And so I just dug a little deeper. I was like, okay, I like working with seniors. My grandma helped take care of me. So growing up, and I took care of her. So, it's not a big stretch for that to be the result. So I was like, okay, how do I work with more people like my grandma who, grandpa died in 87. She lived in the house till 2011. There's a lot of ladies like that. She just got a little pension from General Motors, some Social Security. She owned her house, but, not a lot of other assets. So they don't have, like, a lot of folks I was buying houses from, they don't have CPAs on speed dial. They don't have tax planning attorneys and things like that, but they've been in their house a long time and they don't know who to trust. Everybody's trying to sell them stuff. Everybody was trying to sell my grandma stuff, reverse mortgages, on and on and on. And so I wanted to find more of them. And I went back and I noticed most of them actually weren't coming from all the expensive marketing I was doing. I was like, they were coming by accident. They, people would see me rehabbing a house in the neighborhood and they would drop by, referrals. And then sometimes I was buying these houses. This was a trip. And I'd make an offer, they'd accept it, but I wasn't the highest offer. And I could not figure out why that was happening. So I just called up one of the sellers and I asked him, I just said, hey, you remember me? And they're, Max, Save Your Home Buyers. They're like, oh yeah, I remember you. Like, did you have a higher offer? I thought you told me that. And they're like, yeah, it's like 10 grand more, which, in Dallas, I mean, that was a high percentage, right? So I said, well, why'd you go with me? Like, you can't go back. Like, I can't go back. It's 6 months later, but why? And, what they basically said is because they trusted me. I explained what was going on. I wasn't pressuring them. I wasn't saying, your house is so gross and all this stuff like the other people. And I'd give them options that didn't even point to me, because people, I think, just being a teacher, you just need to let people know what their options are and let them decide. That's how I sleep at night. It's real easy. I sleep great. And so I just did that. And they just said that was like the feeling that I genuinely cared about what happened with them was like more important than the $10,000. And I was like, okay. And so I kind of just kept learning about seniors and working with that niche more and more. Like I said, I mean, it's not for everybody, but it works great for me. It's the fastest growing, group of people. So I did that.
I think it's 4,000 people a day are reaching 85.
Yeah. 10,000. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. So it's 10,000 a day reaching 65. I know
85 a day reaching 85.
Yeah. 85 and up is the fastest growing age category. So I'm like, okay, I'm in the right spot. I'm working with people that I like to help. The problem is that I was in these living rooms on these floral print couches for 4 hours, answering the same questions over and over again, because these folks have been in their house for 30 years. They don't want to rush. They got a lot of questions. And so I was like, what's a more, like, I love helping them, but it's not scalable. And I was buying houses in another state too. And so what happened, this was like the big aha moment that can help any business owner, even if you're not in real estate, is, and of course I get my best ideas from other people, and usually women. They're super smart, and I'm outnumbered. I got 5 girls and a boy, so I gotta stay in line.
Girls and a boy here.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So so I was at a seller's house, and I talked to the daughter. She was, like in her 50s, and she said, I appreciate you helping our family. I bought the house. I helped the dad find another place to live. And she said, you should write a book about this stuff. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I was an algebra teacher, not an English teacher. I'm dyslexic. I would probably get voted least likely to read a book when from my graduating class. Definitely not write a book, but things change. And I thought about it, and I was like, I've seen other businesses where they lead with a book and it has some real advantages. And so I didn't know how to write a book. I've got a gift for your audience at the end if they're a business owner and they're trying to figure that out. It's basically the framework that I wish I had when I started, but I just real unscientific. I just wrote down all the questions people were asking me, all the questions that, people should ask, and, kind of pros and cons. I was noticing a lot of my competition, they were just telling people the pros, about their choice, but not the cons. And there's pros and cons to everything in life. Pros and cons of going on your RV trip. I mean, it's everything, you know what I mean? So I just wrote that out, and it was just a how-to guide, and I just printed it out. That was my first book. This one, Home to Home, the step-by-step senior housing guide. And I just started giving it out to prospects. And I'll tell you what, I never expected to get an award with Robert Kiyosaki for the books at a big conference. I didn't expect all the things that would come out of it. I just did it because people were throwing away my business card. They were losing my $10, credibility kits. And I just thought that people would hang on to them more. We just got a deal on a Thursday. A lady, I spoke at a church, a workshop, and that was over 2 years ago. And the lady called us and was like, hey, I heard you speak like 2 years ago. I need help selling my parents' house. So I went over there on Friday. Guess how many other investors were there?
None.
So, you know what I mean? Like, who's following up 2 years later? Nobody. So so it's been really cool. And then my friends in different real estate groups, a lot of real estate people too. Real estate people are smart, and they just they're good at copying what works. And so they saw what I was doing was working, and they just said, hey, can we use your book in Florida? Can we use it in California? I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then we just
started a publishing and licensing company.
Yeah, it was so crazy. I never would have imagined it in a million years. And now we have people all over the nation that license it. Brant Phillips down in Houston was doing the same thing as me, but not for motivated sellers. He had a how-to book for private money lenders. So he was giving it to local people, and it's all same thing, all the questions that people should ask. And he called me after I got the award with Robert, and he said, hey, like, I like what you're doing with the licensing. I'm using it in Houston. I'm not using it all over. Can we do the same thing with this? And so we changed it up and then started licensing it for people who are trying to reach out to private money lenders. And then now we do them for coaching companies. We did one for Gingarino's company, and then we're doing another one for a big company you've heard of. So
through his program.
Yeah, it's just kind of a cool thing. But books are powerful. That's what I can say.
Gene runs the residential assisted living company, right?
Yeah, he does that. And so, he wanted a book that his students can license and give out when they're talking about their homes. And, they own, the senior homes. And then we have another coaching company that teaches a real specific niche. But how-to books don't work for every business. There's a lot of confusion out there. The main reason it worked for us is because it was 99% of the book is about what our ideal prospect cares about. 1% is about us. That's why it's so easy to customize them, because it's mostly just universal stuff. And
And I found that books tend to work best with high ticket transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So once you get, if you're talking about,
high margin,
which restaurant you're going to go to, you don't need a book.
No.
But if you're talking, selling a house or like our podcasting service that we offer, those are high ticket services or high ticket transactions. And they take some effort and some thought on the person who's going to, be separating themselves from their money. So the books really help with that.
Yeah. And then what was really cool was and I knew friends who had paid $5,000. They got a chapter in a book with 20 other people. I'm sure you've seen those before. Nothing wrong with those books. But, it's like our motivated sellers that, they don't, people who think about selling their house. I mean, they don't really care about us. They want their problem solved, and they don't care about a time we fell down a well and overcame challenges. So for me, that book, like I said, I know it has its purpose, but it didn't make sense. Another thing I was noticing is I had some friends who had done some of these books before, and after they gave them out to everybody at Christmas, they pretty much just stacked up at their office. And so I really wanted a book that, real estate professionals, agents, brokers, investors could use and teach them how to actually use it. So we already had probably an 18-month head start before we started licensing it. And so we just copied the things that we discovered along the way, things that our students have discovered that work, and then built it into our program so people can, somebody can write their own book. Like I said, this book I'm going to give you at the end, that's a great thing to do. But then there's also licensed books, and there's pros and cons. But it's pretty easy for busy people who already understand the value of a deal. Exactly what you said. If it's high margin industry, I'm a big Dan Kennedy fan, and I read his book, Book the Business, which pretty much started this whole publishing company. I'm so glad my coach told me to read that book. And he said, if there's 100 ways to make money with a book, selling it, which is what everybody thinks is the way to make money, is dead last. The only people who make money selling books are a few fiction writers and people who are already famous. The best way is to get a new customer, client, resident in a high margin industry, and real estate's one of them. And like I said, that's what we do, and it's really fun.
Yeah. And especially when a new client is worth, in my business, they're worth anywhere from $12,000 to $25,000 a year, recurring. The amount of money you put into the book and the marketing to go for it, it's way more profitable to get a client or two using a book than it is to try and sell the book. Right. So I mentioned before we got on the call, I got a book. I used one of my books to land a 1,000-year contract with a company that lasted a few years. And that's the only thing I ever used the book for. I wrote the book to get that job. Got the job, and I've never done anything else with it, but it was absolutely worth every cent of effort that went into it because of what comes out on the other side. I don't think people look at books that way, but it's definitely a fascinating way to do marketing.
Yeah, it's a real superpower. And if you look at people who are really on big stages and doing big things, a lot of them have books, and it's for a reason. And I just, like I said, I wouldn't have guessed how it would all go down in a million years, but it's just been really great. And it's funny that, like that award I got for innovation of the year is something, books have been around for thousands of years. So it's like most innovations are some app or, some piece of technology. So just kind of taking something that's been around, that's proven for a long time, and give it to people. I've never found a faster way to build trust and credibility than giving somebody my book. I call them like my perfect salesman. So when I give my books, like literally, they always get the message right. I don't have to pay them commission. This lady, Diana, who we got, we're helping her family with her house. We got that lead last week. I mean, my book literally sat on her coffee table with all the other autographed books from the author, which is zero, for over 2 years, until the day when she needed help. And she went right to the book and called me, and all the info's in there. So my salespeople literally wait in people's houses. We used to put up like a lot of bandit signs. And if people don't know what that is, it's like the little signs on the side of the road. We'll buy your house cash.
Yeah.
Well, those are kind of shady, and, they don't really even work anymore. And people don't like them. But we have bandit signs. They're just in people's living rooms, and are on their nightstands, and they're our books. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
It's just like,
just
works good.
So you've got a pretty storied story for, the last 5 years, building a business in all sorts of different categories and just solving problems. I want to talk a little bit about your superpowers, right? So every iconic hero has a superpower, whether that is a fancy flying suit made by your genius intellect, or super strength, or the ability to call down thunder from the sky. In the real world, heroes have what I call a zone of genius, which is either a skill or a set of skills that you were born with or you developed over time. Right. So, and this superpower is the way that I frame it for people. It's if you look at all the skills that you've developed, it's the one that is sort of connected to everything. It's the common thread between all the things that you do in your life. And that is where you find your superpower. So in growing your business, what do you think your superpower is?
I've been told it's teaching. And I mean, it kind of would make sense. When I became a teacher, out of like 300 new teachers, I was, rookie teacher of the year. I came in a little late. I did corporate finance and stuff. I didn't like it. I got into teaching because my wife was a teacher, and I loved it. And I was like, it was like an instant thing. You just do something that's just a natural fit. Teaching to me is really just like mapping out the clear steps, like really paying attention to that person you're across from to see if they're getting it or not. It's not like a one-way thing. It's a loop. And just taking really complicated things and breaking them down into really, really simple, like easy to understand parts. So I do that for my students. Yeah, I do that in the books. I do it with my students. I did it when I was teaching algebra. I've done that pretty much my whole life. And, like I said, I just never thought it would turn into much financially, because teaching traditionally has been a little bit on the lower paying side. But now that I'm teaching, real estate investors, marketing, well, that's a whole different type of teaching. So it's all good.
Yeah. I do a lot of teaching in my space as well. And because we do marketing essentially for heroic brands. So people who want to have a book, or who want to run a podcast, or have their courses and education stuff done. So I help people do instructional design, like how to take what they know and turn it into a training course. Oh, cool. Or how to take what they know and turn it into a book. So we do that a lot. And so a lot of what I do is teaching people how to teach. So yeah, it's teaching is probably, as far as I'm concerned, it's probably one of the most lucrative things you can do as a skill set, right? If you're outside of, building a massive systemized business, like, building iPhones or something.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely scalable. And I have the same kind of background. I was one of those instructors at the New Teacher Academy. So teaching the teachers, and now with our students and our new certification and our movement, that's what we're doing now. I'm giving our students the tools where they can go out into the marketplace, whether it's their own licensed book or whether it's one that our whole community shares and uses, but actually go to somebody's house and give a different level of value and teach those people at the dinner table something valuable that'll help them. And then through communicating that, you're just adding a lot more value to the deals, before you even get an agreement signed. So that's our strategy. And yeah, that's what
I have a sales strategy that I've got a few of my colleagues tell me I'm crazy for, but my sales strategy is I get on phone calls like this one with someone else, and I just teach them everything they want to know. It's like, I'll teach you my entire process, beginning to end, everything that there is to know about building a heroic brand. And I'll give you my templates, my checklists, and everything you need to go out and do it yourself. And most people are like, well, you're obviously the expert. Why don't you do it for me?
Yeah, no, that's why we talk about the pros and the cons. I have people all the time who are like investors when they're just getting started to what we're doing in our movement. It's brand new. They've never thought this way before. And they're like, well, if they're an investor and they're not an agent, like the first thing we do is just say, hey, this is a seller's market. Your house is really fixed up. Why don't you just put it on the MLS and sell it? You can probably get a lot more than what I can give you for it. And folks are like, no, don't say that. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like they're going to figure that out anyways. Just like be upfront, let them know what all the options are. Because like you said, 9 times out of 10, they come to you. Marketing is not about having the most ninja ad copy or all the algorithm hacks and all this crap that people say that's bullshit that just to sell courses. It's not about that. It's about trust and communication. That marketing is a conversation and trust. That's it. That's what marketing is.
Yep. Yeah. They say they gotta know, like, and trust you. Trust being the most important.
Yeah, that's it.
So if your superpower is teaching and using the teaching to sell, the flip side of that coin, of course, is your fatal flaw. So just like Superman has his kryptonite, or Wonder Woman can't remove her bracelets of victory without going mad, you probably have a flaw that's held you back in growing your business, something you struggled with. For me, it was a couple of things. I struggled early in my entrepreneur career with perfectionism, where I was like, I just couldn't get something done because I wanted to tweak it a little bit more before I brought it to market. And that leads you to never bringing things to market. And another one I struggled with was lack of self-care, which means I didn't have good boundaries, and I let my clients walk all over me, and didn't have good hours set up for myself. And so my business ran my life. So early things that I struggled with in my career, but I think more important than what the flaw is how have you worked to rectify those things so people who are listening might learn a little from your experience?
Yeah. So, for me, I was always just super competitive growing up. I just sort of just my natural inclination. So I was always comparing myself to other people. That was competitive. I wanted to beat everybody, in everything that I did. But there's no peace with that, and there's always somebody who's got more experience or got more money. And so I got into real estate, and I'm like 2 years in, and my income is, 10 times higher than it was when I was teaching, but I was happier when I was teaching. And so for me, I just sort of, when I elevated the mission up, and the books helped that a lot, to help a lot of people who I'll never even meet, that's really when the real happiness, the fulfillment, and the success came in. And then when I just stopped comparing myself to other people, and I just compared myself to me yesterday, just kept trying to improve each day, and just be, happy with the results. That's really been the big game changer. Yeah.
That's like, it's learning how to define success for yourself, right? Because until you've done that, the only way to do it is to look at what other people are saying success is for them, and you're comparing, your insides to their outsides, and it never really works. And it's how you end up being in a place where you're not happy. So it's definitely it's a cool place to get to when you finally realize, okay, this is what success and joy and happiness means in my life. And then knowing that your business is a tool to help you achieve those things.
Totally. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So I think that ties really nicely into the next question, which is about your driving force, right? So just like Spider-Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save Gotham, or Google fights to index and categorize all the world's information, you have a mission in your business, something that you fight for. What would you say that is?
Yeah. So my mindset is I want our community to be the advocates for not just seniors, but just homeowners in general. I would go to a lot of meetings, and there'd be real estate investors there. Like I said, I'm not judging them, but I just don't agree with this philosophy. And they would talk about, hunting, the sellers down, not really giving them all the info, having an advantage, having leverage. And I just thought that was kind of crappy. Like, if you're going to be in any kind of a fight or a goal or a mission, like, make it fair, And so I thought back to, like I said, the first 15 years of my life, my grandma helped take care of me, and then I took care of her. I go get her groceries, doctor's appointments, take her to church. And I was always, because I had a business degree, I was, she was just getting calls all the time. And people acted like they were trying to help her, but they were really just trying to help, themselves. And so I was like, and but my grandma had me, but a lot of these folks don't have anybody to help them, and they can just get kind of bamboozled. And so what's the driving force for us, what makes me just like jump out of bed and hit my head on the ceiling is getting this education out to a million homeowners so that they can make a good informed decision. So it's a level playing ground. They know what questions to ask people to see if they're working with the right person. And I just realized that I couldn't come up with like a distribution model to do it all on my own. So that's really where the licensing and the all the certification and stuff that we're doing now comes out of, is because I know I can't do it alone. And so people ask me about my publishing business, and I'm like, I have dual purposes. Like, one, sure, I want it to be profitable, like any business, of course. If there's no margin, there's no mission. So, you got to make profit. But my other mission, and it's just as important, is, like I said, to get this stuff in front of a million homeowners. We're just a couple of years away from actually reaching that distribution goal. And so that's what gets me really, pumped up.
That's exciting. Yeah. And there's definitely a lot to be said for having a purpose behind what you're doing. So with, you mentioned a minute ago, with no margin, there's no mission, and it goes the other way around too. With no mission, it's really hard to actually like build a business. And if you don't have something that you're actually building for.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that you're doing. I like it.
Cool.
So what I want to talk about then is some practical things for people, and I call this your hero's tool belt, right? So just like Batman has his batarangs, or Spider-Man has web slingers, or Thor's got his big magical hammer. We want to know about top 1 or 2 tools you use every day in your business that you couldn't live without. Right? It could be anything from your notepad that you jot your thoughts down onto the calendar, to your marketing tools, or something you use to actually do your product delivery. Something you think is essential to getting your job done every day to actually drive revenue in your business.
One is just having a really detailed plan. I have ADHD along with probably a million other things. So for me, I need to know, a good plan tells you what the next step is, not just what the big goal is. So I've been just using a planner every day for, about, I guess, 4 years now. That's helped a lot. My accountability coach, I think if you're a business owner and you're not accountable to somebody else that's like third party, I follow Keith Cunningham, and I love his books about, owning a business. And that's really what he advocated. My whole game, everything changed when I got a coach that I could, share what we're doing, share the scorecard for the company with, and they just see things different. So that's huge. And then my assistant, when I brought Kate on like 2 years ago, that changed the whole game, because it just allowed me to took 90% of the stuff off my plate that I wasn't even very good at, like a lot of organization stuff and real detailed oriented stuff. And she loves it. And then I can spend more time on the things that, I'm better at and more passionate about. So those are the 3 things: my plan, accountability coach, and an assistant.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are good things to have. I know when I brought on my first staff member, it was a mind shift for me, because I was used to doing everything myself, and when I hired someone, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. And it was amazing. Immediately after bringing them on, your work output doubles or triples, and you're like, oh, that's how you afford it.
Yeah, one of my mentors told me, Glenn, told me a long time ago. He said, you got to consider hiring, 6 months before you need that person. So it's kind of always going to be like a catch-22, but I agree. And I'm not into a lot of status signaling like some people. My team has this many people and all this stuff. It's just a lot of the stuff on social media is total garbage, and these people are just wasting time. I just focus on getting results for my students, because if I pour into them and they're getting results, everything else takes care of itself. I don't need to worry about all that silly noise. But I will tell you, adding good people, it's definitely a superpower. And I don't know all these movies that you're talking about, so I need to brush up a little bit on my comic book game. But I was having a lot of kids when all these movies were coming out, so I've missed Iron Man and this Thor and Avengers. I've never seen any of these, so I need to get up on this.
It's probably because you only had the one boy. I like my son was born right when all these were coming out.
Right. Okay.
And so like he was obsessed with all of them.
Oh, okay.
And because he's the oldest, his younger sisters got the bug. So like my second daughter, she was Iron Man every year for Halloween for like 4 years.
Oh, that's fun.
And she went through a whole phase where like Iron Man sat at the dinner table with us and we didn't set a plate for him. We got in trouble. And she didn't put Barbie dolls in her dollhouse. She put Iron Man dolls. So
oh, that's interesting. No, James got here. We had 5 girls in a row, and then we had a boy. So I don't give up.
he's
I think
youngest.
was that?
He's your youngest.
Yeah, he's my youngest. So our game is like Newsies, Les Mis, piano. My wife's a singer, so we're over here. I'm a girl dad, but I love it. It's all good.
Yeah. I just discovered recently because I was doing the math on it. My
Mhm.
son's gonna move out, and I'm gonna have teenage daughters in the house. And I was like, "You're gonna have to move close by because about once a month I'm gonna have to come over and just hang out."
That's right. Very cool.
So,
And now a quick word from our show's sponsor. Hey there, fellow podcaster. Having a weekly audio and video show on all the major online networks that builds your brand, creates fame, and drives sales for your business doesn't have to be hard. I know it feels that way because you've tried managing your show internally and realize how resource intensive it can be. You felt the pain of pouring 8 to 10 hours of work into just getting 1 hour of content published and promoted all over the place. You see the drain on your resources, but you do it anyways because you know how powerful it is. Heck, you've probably even tried some of those automated solutions and ended up with stuff that makes your brand look cheesy and cheap. That's not helping grow your business. Don't give up though. The struggle ends now. Introducing Push Button Podcasts, a done-for-you service that will help you get your show out every single week without you lifting a finger after you've pushed that stop record button. We handle everything else: uploading, editing, transcribing, writing, research, graphics, publication, and promotion, all done by real humans who know, understand, and care about your brand almost as much as you do. Empowered by our own proprietary technology, our team will let you get back to doing what you love while we handle the rest. Check us out at pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero for 10% off the lifetime of your service with us, and see the power of having an audio and video podcast growing and driving micro celebrity status and business in your niche without you having to lift more than a finger to push that stop record button. Again, that's pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero. See you there. And now, back to the Hero Show.
yeah, so I'm going to talk a little about your own personal heroes, right? So every hero has their own mentors. Like Frodo had Gandalf, or Luke had Obi-Wan, or Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad, or Spider-Man had his Uncle Ben. So who were some of your heroes? Were they real-life mentors, maybe speakers or authors or peers who were a couple years ahead of you? And how important were they to what you've accomplished so far?
Yeah, I mean, number one is my grandma, because what was cool about her is so many things, but one is she was such a giver. Like, she'd be in pain, her knees, she had arthritis. She never complained. She just like kept going. I think that's why she made it to almost 91 when all of her friends, passed away. She just like kept going. So I learned a lot of determination from her. She was just always thinking about other people. She would make all the food. She was president of the Senior Citizens Club. So she would make all the food and stuff for the luncheons, and I'd go with her to the bingo. And it was really cool. So like she would just always help people. And I don't know, she just like never raised her voice at us. She was just like basically like the most perfect person in the world. So I modeled a lot of my game after her. One funny thing that she did, the reason I don't have long hair or facial hair is because like we would watch Wheel of Fortune, and if some guy had a ponytail, she was like not feeling that. And she could like close one eye and like have some invisible scissors and like cut their ponytail off. And then every time somebody had like a facial hair, she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, look at that. I can't believe that." I don't even know why. I guess back in her time, that was the thing. But I just like, I'm glad she wasn't a bad influence, because I did everything that, it's not even so much like she said anything specific. You just kind of lead by example. So we don't need a million people on this list. Grandma is it by far. My parents did a great job with me too, but grandma kind of kept me in church when I was doing the college thing. And I was like, I don't need church. She's like, encouraging me to go. I met my wife at church, taking her there. So that changed my whole life. So I'm glad I did that. So if you haven't met anybody, go to church. They're out there, but or wherever you want to go.
Good people. Yeah.
Yes.
My grandma was that way too. She's still to this day a hero of mine. She passed away a number of years ago.
Mhm.
But I swear, I mean, if Jesus needed a door greeter, she's probably it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, like, she was really important to me, and like I had a really close relationship with her. But like, to me, she was always just grandma, and it was just me and her. And it was like, when she passed away, I did the eulogy at her funeral, and like 750 people showed up.
Ah, it's
Uh,
awesome.
and there's like standing room only in this mega church, and I was like, oh wow, she wasn't just important to me.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so yeah, grandma's for the win.
Yeah. And there's always somebody along the way, like the first 18 years of school is kind of a blur, but I had a marketing teacher, Miss Watkins. I wasn't good at school. I didn't know I had dyslexia. They weren't testing for it as much back then. And I always struggled in school. I just didn't like it. I didn't want to pay attention. Teachers couldn't figure out if I was dumb or I just didn't care. I just had trouble concentrating. But when I got into her class senior year, they had like business stuff, and I did a presentation and made it to nationals, and we got a free trip to Disney World. So she kind of showed me that I could go out and achieve stuff. That was the first time
Yeah,
I ever achieved anything. And then that kind of got me on the business track. And, here we are running businesses. So that definitely paid off.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's always amazing. The people that are our heroes don't always know. Like, if you asked them who considers you a hero, you probably wouldn't know.
Right.
And it always just reminds me to act as if, act in a way that is worthy of being someone's hero. For me,
Mhm.
it's, for my kids, I want to be, I had a mentor of mine said, hey, one day you're going to grow up, your kids are going to have a hero. If you're not worthy, it's not going to be you. And so I've always just kept that in the back of my mind. That's why I ask people the question, because I was curious who they consider. And it's very rarely, it's very rarely the famous people you hear about, right? It's grandma, or it's a teacher, or it's, the guy who comes by and picks up their trash every week. Like, it's the normal everyday people that have a huge impact on your lives.
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your guiding principles then, right? So one of the things that makes heroes heroic is that they live by a code. So for instance, Batman never kills his enemies. He only ever brings them to Arkham Asylum. So as we wrap up the interview, I want to talk about top 1 or 2 principles you use in your life regularly. Maybe something you wish you'd known when you started out on your own hero's journey.
Yeah, I read a lot. So reading is like an absolute superpower. I only read like 7 books for the first 35 years of my life. And then when I found out that I was dyslexic, I got with a coach. She helped me, figure out how to read a lot better. And so now I read a lot. So that's been like the number one key to success has been, reading. And then I just use the phrase like leveling up, but I always want to improve. When I was a teacher, we called it keep, change, delete. But every time I do a presentation or a training or anything, I'm just always looking for feedback from people who can actually give you feedback. Not everybody can or should, but, from folks who have been where you want to go. And, I get feedback and just level up. And, it's weird. It's like, I thought success would be like, one thing or one magic bullet or all of the sudden. And it's really just daily, gradual
Yeah.
improvement over time. And then you just kind of look up and it's like,
Just that slight edge, make a little bit of improvement every day.
yeah, look what happened. So that's been what I've been doing. It's been, working really good, and just taking care of my health too, because if you don't have your health, like, I mean, if you don't take care of your body, like you don't have anywhere else to live, it's
Yeah.
the only place you can live. So I've been doing a real good job lately, taking care of my body and, just turning work off and making sure that I'm focused on my family too, because like you said, if you're not worthy, then they'll find somebody else to follow. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
may not be the right
And
person.
it's one of those things that's super important that I think we forget a lot as entrepreneurs, is to take care of your body, right? We want to be wealthy, but you forget about the healthy. So like healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? Those are the 3 things. And my over the last couple of years, I started working with a health coach.
Mhm.
Uh, and I put on 20 pounds of muscle and dropped like 10 pounds of body fat. And I was used to be scrawny. Now I'm not scrawny. I actually look like an adult male now, which is fun.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much that's impacted my ability to get work done and to do good work.
Very cool.
So yeah, your health is a huge thing.
Mhm.
Helps for everything from your ideation abilities to, having fun with your kids when you're taking the day off.
Exactly.
Awesome. So that's a wrap on our interview. And I do finish every interview with a simple challenge. I call it the Heroes Challenge. And the Heroes Challenge is simply a selfish way for me to find stories that I might not find otherwise on my own, because not everyone is out looking to get on podcasts like you might be. So the question is simple. Do you have someone in your life or in your network that you think has a cool entrepreneurial story? Who are they? First names are fine. And why should they come share their story on our show? First person that comes to mind for you.
Has Robert been on your show yet?
Robert Kiyosaki? He has not.
I think he's got a good story. I would book him.
If you can introduce him, I will totally bring him on the show.
All right, cool. Let's make it happen.
That'd be awesome. I think everyone knows Robert Kiyosaki, right?
I mean, he's good, and I love his stuff, and he's always coming up with new stuff. He's constantly learning. But I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know about just one person. I've met a lot of really amazing people. They're out there, but like I said, the most amazing people I've met, they're doing ordinary things, extremely consistent. Like being really successful, really great is like, I found it's just more about consistency and showing up. And so the people that I kind of look at and have those best stories, they're not like the most exciting story, but it just works. I know it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. Those are the types of people we try to get on the show, right? Because just to show all the different, the ones everyone sees all the time are your Gary V's and your Tony Robbins and the big names that are in the marketing game. But you don't realize, like, one of my favorite people that I've had on was, someone who's doing underwater tile work. That's all they do. They do it all over the country, right?
Really?
Or yeah, like, and nobody ever knows that guy, but they exist and they do really cool stuff. So yeah,
Cool.
awesome. So in comic books, there's always the crowd of people at the end who are cheering and clapping for the acts of heroism. So analogous to that in this show is, where can people find you if they want to learn about the real estate and the publishing stuff that you do? Where can they light up the bat signal, so to speak, and say, hey, you know what, Max, I'd love to have your help. And I think more importantly than where is, who are the right types of people to reach out and ask for your help?
Yeah. So if somebody's listening and they're a real estate investor or an agent or a broker, we help those folks figure out, what's the best route for them. So they can, I have a copy of my newest book. It's the Real Estate Investors Book Writing Checklist. But I mean, it works not just for real estate investors, but, all business owners essentially. And it's the framework that we use, the questions that we ask before we write a new book. We're writing a new one right now. There's basically the questions I wish I had when I wrote my first book, because then I wouldn't have had to go halfway in and rewrite it because it wasn't structured correctly. So if folks want to get a copy of that, while the link is still up, you can go to dealschasingyou.com and then /Matthews, MATTHEWS. So dealschasingyou.com /Matthews.
Bring them to this landing page here. We'll make sure that gets in the show notes for people if they want to get into that. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Max. It has been a pleasure having you and getting to hear your story and just hear what you do for people. And so I really appreciate that. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience before I hit this stop record button?
Yeah, just read. I mean, reading's a superpower. We talked about superheroes and superpowers. It just, for me, it all centers around starts and stops with books. And I just want to commend everybody for investing their time and trying to level up and try to get, better. And, just looking forward to our next visit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today, Max.